Good morning, fourth graders. Welcome to Reader's Workshop. On Wednesday, you had a lesson with Miss Schoen where you talked about, you discussed who has power and who has voice, and thinking about that in order to deepen your understanding of the text. And for today's lesson, I want to teach you that reading other sources on the same topic can also help you develop a deeper understanding of the topic itself. And when we do this, we call these text-to-text connections. And you're making a connection between the book and either another book you've read or another article. What we're going to do today is we are going to do this text-to-text connection using A Long Walk to Water and this other text that is from water.org. So here we see this article, and like I said, I found this on water.org. And we're gonna just look at these two paragraphs here. So this is labeled a women's crisis. Women are disproportionately affected by the water crisis, as they are often responsible for collecting water. This takes time away from work, school, and caring for family. The lack of water and sanitation locks women into a cycle of poverty. Empowering women is critical to solving the water crisis. When women have access to safe water at home, they can pursue more beyond water collection and their traditional roles. They have time to work and add to their household income. And this says here, this is a fact, 266 million. It says women and girls spend 266 million hours every day finding a place to go get water. And it says 200 million women and girls, women and girls spend 200 million hours every day collecting the actual water. Those are really crazy facts to think about. So now we're going to look at, we're going to focus on Naya, the chapters we read about Naya, and we're going to make connections between what we just read, which is a real article, and the story that we're being told about Naya in our book. So what are some connections that I can make between the article that we just looked at and A Long Walk to Water, and specifically Naya's story from A Long Walk to Water? So to give you an example, one of the connections that I was able to make was that both are about how girls and women are affected by the water crisis. So the article was specifically about how this water crisis is affecting women and girls. And in Naya's story, the focus is really on her and how she's being affected by having to walk for water. So before I put any of the other connections that I was able to make between the text, I want you to go ahead and pause right now, pause this video, and I want you to brainstorm some of the connections that you could make between the article and the text. And you can jot them down or just hold them in your brain, but I want you to practice coming up with a couple of connections before I put them up here and see if you can match any of the ones that I come up with. So pause it right now and then come back and watch the rest of the video. All right, hopefully you've brainstormed a couple of ideas. So another connection that I made was that both the article and Naya's story talk about how girls have to miss school in order to get water. And that's a big theme in Naya's story, probably the most important consequence of her having to walk for water is that she's missing out on school. Another connection I made was that both talked about how women get stuck because they don't ever have a chance to get out of poverty. And we see that cycle happening in Naya's story. It's just the same kind of Naya's walking for water and her children will have to walk for water. Her mother had to walk for water and they're not able to get out of it because they have to be missing school, so they don't have an education. That makes it impossible for them to go on to get a well-paying job. And for the adult women, they are oftentimes also walking for water, and it makes it so that they don't have time to go out and make any other income. So it really creates a cycle of poverty. And then the last connection that I made was that both talk about how women are more affected by the water crisis than men. And that doesn't mean that men aren't affected by it, but women are more affected and girls are more affected just because of the fact that it's their job to be the ones to go and get the water. So that is an example of how you can make text-to-text connections. And now it is your turn. You are going to listen to a short story called The Water Princess. And it's a read aloud, so it'll be read to you. So you're just going to listen to it. And then I want you to practice what I just modeled in the mini lesson. So after you've listened to the story, you're going to answer the following question in the discussion below. What are 3 connections that you can make between The Water Princess and A Long Walk to Water? Off you go.